Chapter 27. From in the control room, seated behind Hobbs, Arden brimmed with excitement, Merlot splashing into his glass for the third time in just a few minutes while he dusted crisps from his shirt. Blau's eyes were fixed on the screen, however, listening intently to Geek, who radioed through to Router. "What in God's name is he up to?" Hobbs thundered, roar splashing coffee over Geek's projections as Grace jumped from in Mobius. "Hold back on air support till the signal." Geek shot back before glancing at Blau. "Reroute specs, prioritize thrusters and shielding." Blau's fingers hammered away over keys as Hobbs begrudgingly rang through to air support. Much as he needed Reuter's success, he couldn't help but hope he fail. That would knock him off that pedestal the boys placed him on rather nicely, but Router always pulled it out the bag. Hobbs' jaw firmed, God knows how. The guy was a maverick. Maximize thrusters, adjusting primaries to shielding. Once done, the silence was deafening. All they could do now was watch and wait. Reuter's sats plummet as he shot up like a bullet, suit piercing the dome. He cut engines and tailed back, missiles having locked on. Maxing out speed on descent, he struggled to remain conscious, blood pressure dangerously low. "Hang in there, Router." Geek's voice broke through the static, pulling him back, but the outside of his armored suit burned, resistance buffeting it, excess heat causing parts to malfunction and comms to cut out completely. The rest of the team on the ground watched him meteor down, having lost control. "No!" AMJ's own suit spluttered where he hammered the ignition, but it refused to take off, completely out of fuel. He watched Router's unconscious form tumble, missile gaining on him. Geek's head slipped into his hands, unable to watch. As Reuter fell, missiles gaining, Flacco slammed into the side of him, his mid-air tackle throwing both of them out the way of the oncoming missile, which sliced past and did an about-turn to continue its pursuit. Flacco darted toward the gatehouse, coming into a bumpy landing as he fired up thrusters. One spluttered, hemorrhaging fuel where they'd come under fire. Struggling under the increased weight, it cut out completely, sending them bowling into the outskirts of the mob surrounding the gatehouse. Rolling to a halt, he punched the remaining thruster, and like a grasshopper, they sprung aside, narrowly avoiding the missile where it hit. From where he lay, Reuter's shield dimmed out. Flacco's flickered intermittently from his motionless form. Stats were out, conserving power, and back at HQ, even Arden's rustling had stopped as they stared at the few remaining screens watching the dust settle. The impact had decimated half the Volkov mob outside the gatehouse, shaking the very foundations and sending part of the perimeter wall tumbling down and many more. An almighty cheer ripped through HQ as Flacco groaned and rolled to his side. From where he lay in mud in between chunks of mortar, Router could hear a dull, monotone alarm blanket everything. As he stared up through his broken visor, it seemed to grow louder. Pushing it back, he could see the gatehouse, which, unlike him, was still standing, as was much of the perimeter wall. He hadn't managed to punch a hole big enough for any significant advantage. They'd lost. Straining to sit, he battled against bent armor before managing to prop himself against a pile of fallen men as he pulled off his helmet, the pain in his leg burning. Gain of function error. Stem C rinse incomplete. Error. Error. Router's vitals could be heard, flashing red on the discarded visor as he caught sight of Flacco hobbling about in the rubble, retrieving guns and anything else of use. It was only then that he noticed some of the bodies had begun to move, a few rising up. It seemed they weren't the only lucky survivors. Hobbling to his feet, he and Flacco backed toward the wall as Reuter tried his jetpack again. Smoking, it puffed out. Flacco's shield now dimmed as he pointed his remaining thruster at the approaching guards, only for it to wheeze and splutter. "Always did prefer an old-fashioned." Flacco picked up one of the guns he scavenged and chucked another at Reuter. "We ain't walking out of this one," he growled, casting an eye over Router's battered form and the Volkov, who began circling. Router straightened, taking aim as he noticed the guard's distraction overhead. "You got a wife and kids to come yet?" He smiled. "Family never was my thing," Flacco offered with a resigned smile. But it was only then that he caught sight of Millie and the boys who'd flown overhead, providing cover as Burlow and Grimmy scooped them up. As the group spluttered down onto what remained of the perimeter wall, Reuter gave Flacco a tired smile. "Family's worth having." he slumped to the floor between the lads who took formation. He was now very pale, having lost a lot of blood, guards having scrambled up either side of the wall. Quattro, Millie, Router, and Grimmy took up position on one side, with Flacco, Burlo, Hoarder, and Lights on the other. Router sat trying to fix his stem C rinse that refused to power up, managing to dodge stray blows from his men as they moved, battling guards back. Grace could see they were badly outnumbered, but at least on high ground with narrow access, they'd placed a stranglehold on any attack. "Comms still down," Flacco grumbled between blows. "HQ don't want to hear your belly aching," Burlo teased. "Those who can, get back to the gatehouse," Reuter ordered, their situation here hopeless. "And let you have all the fun." Kotra shook his head along with the others, but Grace could see they were exhausted. Down to hand-to-hand combat, it seemed hopeless. "Hit 'em, boy," Millie barked at Flacco. "I did. I spanked the missus harder than that," he roared, picking up a guard and bowling him down the aisle, knocking a few more over before a shot pierced his side. Grace could see that, although Millie had slapped on a stem patch, he'd lost a lot of blood. Lilib struggled in his armor. It had taken quite a battering. Weakened and unable to move properly, it wasn't long until a Volkov shot ripped through, piercing his side. Blood splattered between breaths. His lung pierced. He slumped beside Rotor, activating his suit's stem C and hormone rinse. Within seconds, it flooded his cells, speeding repair to damaged tissue and stimulating internal clotting to prevent more blood from filling his lungs. Burlo fought on as Router spoke to Lilabe, his voice tethering the lad to the land of the living. "You still owe me that pint." But the lad's head fell back on cold stone, eyes glazing over. "Don't you bail on us," Router barked. Gold eyes glossed as he shot the booster he'd been salvaging from his battered suit, his only working stem C rinse into Lilabe. He watched, helpless, as the bloody tragedy unfolded in slow motion. Lilabe dying in his arms, the monotone ringing in his ears dulling the sounds as his boys fought bravely. Everything so vivid, their slaughter, eerily calm. His kid, Alex, would be waking next to his wife about now, and his thoughts pulled to them, to their peace in that beautiful moment where he kissed them goodbye and offered up a prayer to see them again, in this world or the next. Dodging another friendly blow as his lads fought on, a guard managed to break through. Holding him in a chokehold, Reuter continued applying pressure to Lilabe. Looking out over their losing battle, blood and twilight was suddenly lit by fire from heaven. Raining down, thousands of SMC jet suits flamed overhead where they shot over the fortified port and came into land. Bullets plowed into the ground surrounding Reuter and his team, pushing guards back as reinforcements land between them, forming a protective shield. Reuter's eyes squeezed shut on the image of his wife and kid. Chair must have done it, got it working. Geek had opened the Iron Dome, let in air support. SMC reinforcements continued to pour in for quite some time after Reuter and his boys had been extracted, and Reuter found himself watching impatiently from the sidelines while they checked them over in Med Bay, a refashioned cargo drone hovering just offshore, high above the action. From there, he saw them secure battlegrounds. Supplies that had hovered offshore with them began to move in without him. Huge armored cargo drones. It felt surreal. Time down there had flown. But up here, just the last hour had felt like a lifetime. The Volkov were completely overwhelmed, and Reuter had JK, Millie, Malau, Schwartz, and Lilabe flown back to the Netherlands, where state-of-the-art STEM C pods and the specialist care of Dr. Becker waited. Her hologram argued quite convincingly for Router to join them, but he firmly declined. Having managed to secure an alternative suit and complete a STEM C rinse, he was feeling much better. With him back on his feet, they didn't have a chance of sending him anywhere until the rest of his boys were done here. Clipping in a spare jetpack and extra cylinder, he bid good day to Dr. Becker's hologram, which now seemed rather exasperated, before blazing down to their new base, where he could see some commotion had broken out by the keep.